Hello guys, welcome back. Now today we're going to be talking about the biggest winners from NHL Free Agency 2019. Now, most of the stars from NHL Free Agency have been signed up to this point, but which contracts are looking like steals so far and who has been the biggest winners of Free Agency? Watch till the end to find out. When it comes to this year's NHL Free Agency, it was definitely very interesting to watch. There's a lot of fantastic stars in the league that went to different NHL teams, and there's still a lot of great players still available right now. But in this video, I'll be going over the teams that I think won Free Agency the most. The first team that fits that winning criteria, I have the New York Rangers, and they had themselves quite a very interesting free agency to say the least, and quite an impactful one. Now, the highlights of their free agency was signing Graviteh and of course Danny O'Regan, two fantastic players that are stars in the NHL today. And even with them signing those two elite players, they also had time for one depth signing, that being Artemi Panarin. I'm not sure if you've heard of him, but he's a decent guy and a decent bottom six guy, obviously besides the jokes. New York got the best free agent in the entire class. Artemi Panarin is an absolute stud and will be that with the New York Rangers. It was pretty much a battle to the end with quite a few different teams. There was Florida, the New York Islanders, the Columbus Blue Jackets. The Rangers got him, and they're pretty thankful for that. Now, of course, the gigantic deal, they ended up signing Artemi Panarin for 7 years on the dots at $11.6 million. And this is a huge deal, right around the money that Austin Matthews is about to get as well. But he's about to be the second, or pretty much tied for the second most paid forward in the entire NHL. And that is big, big news. It's a big deal as well. For the New York Rangers, they don't really have too much cap space to be throwing around. They got quite a few guys to sign as well, Jacob Trouba being the most notable guy. But still, adding Artemi Panarin to that group is so good for them. They could turn into a playoff contender as soon as next season, especially with the help of Artemi Panarin, and is likely 80+ points. And yes, $11.6 million is a lot for a free agent, but it makes sense in Artemi Panarin's situation. He's a UFA in the middle of his prime. Ever since he came into the league at 25, 24, he has been absolutely amazing, consistently amazing as well. And the New York Rangers make a very solid bet, and it's not even that much risk involved. Again, the contract ends at age 34. He'll still likely be very good, and that's the type of player that does age well too. Kind of like a Patrick Kane, where, again, he's not this physical guy, so he likely will age better. And he could have gotten a lot more too. The New York Islanders reportedly have him in the conversation of the Connor McDavid range, which is $12.5 million. So he technically did take a pay cut to go to the New York Rangers, and I think that is a wise move, as their future right now is looking so good. And obviously, I joke around with the Graviteh signing, but I still think overall the New York Rangers had a fantastic free agency. Again, Artemi Panarin being the main guy there, getting him at 11.6 especially, having that pay cut I think is crucial for them. And again, New York was going to have a great future anyways. Guys like Kako obviously leading the group, but having Artemi Panarin there for the next 7 years, he'll likely win a cup in New York. I think he will win it there. With the core that New York is assembling right now, they're going to be nasty as soon as next season. Now, for the next winner of free agency, I have the Toronto Maple Leafs, and they had themselves quite an impactful free agency, same way as the New York Rangers, but in a much different style. Now, in the first few hours, we saw them make some depth moves, some depth signings, which is solid, but obviously the whole thing that redeemed their whole free agency was the Barrie and Kadri trade, a trade that they likely won by quite a bit. Now, even with that trade, the signings that they did end up making were pretty solid and pretty notable too. Again, you have the Jason Spezza contract, which I'm a pretty big fan of, pretty much having him at a league minimum for 1 year. There's no risk there, and even if he doesn't pound out as a fourth center, you can just have him scratch for the rest of the year and have him as that veteran guy that brings the leadership. There's no risk there, and it could definitely pay off for the Toronto Maple Leafs, especially if you give him with some good line mates. You also have a couple of other guys like Kevin Grav, who's at the LA Kings. He's decent, could be maybe a 6 or 7 defenseman, more likely an AHL guy, but still pretty decent. And also Nick Shore, who, again, could be a center on the NHL team, but is likely more of a scratch. But still, with Toronto having that depth and decent depth, is very interesting for them, and definitely an upgrade over last season. And yes, depth signings are amazing, but they ended up pulling off the biggest trade in free agency so far, the Tyson Barrie Nazem Kadri trade. And this has so many aspects on this. I already made a video about that on the channel too. Check that out if you haven't. But when it comes to this whole trade, again, this was the trade that made Toronto's whole free agency. Getting Tyson Barrie, getting a guy like Alexander Kerfoot to be that third line center, a guy that has a lot of defensive capabilities. It's very interesting for Toronto. And again, for Tyson Barrie, he's not the greatest defensively, but I think he will have a rebound year with Toronto. Again, he's still an offensive puck mover, which is very good for guys like Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner to get set up. So I think it will work definitely. And on the power play, having guys like Wylie and Tyson Barrie, seems pretty good to me. And Toronto obviously wouldn't be winners if they just signed a guy like Jason Spezza and called it a day, but that trade right there made them into a winner and into this video. I'm a big fan of what they did there, and while Tyson Barrie isn't the answer, I don't think defensively, I still think he can be decent defensively, and of course offensively, he's a juggernaut, and I think we'll see that with Toronto too. And I don't think Toronto is even done either. I think we'll see them get another right shot defenseman on that right side, whether it's a signing, whether it's a trade, I'm not exactly sure, but I don't think Toronto is done, and their offseason has a lot more to come too. Now for the next team that I think is winners in this free agency, I have the Nashville Predators. And they had themselves quite an expected free agency, but still a very, very good one. Now, of course, at the NHL draft, we saw them trade PK Subban, free up pretty much $9 million in cap space, which was huge for them. It was pretty much a cap dump. And after that trade, we all thought the Nashville would be doing something big. Whether that's getting a guy like Matt Duchene or trading for a guy, we knew Nashville was going to do something big in this free agency, and they definitely did. Matt Duchene, probably the second best forward guy in this whole free agency. They get their guy at a pretty good price. Again, 7 years at the contract, $8 million, and he was looking to get $9.5 million. That was what was reported a couple of days ago before free agency, but they get him at $8 million, which is a steal for Nashville, and one they'll look back on as a pretty great contract too. Now, Nashville kind of has a problem now because they have too many good centers. It's a nice problem to have, but now with their center core, they got a guy like Johansson and Matt Duchene, two great centers in my opinion, and having one or the other as a second line center is a great option. I wouldn't say one or the other is a true bona fide top 10 center, but they're both pretty great at their jobs, and offensively they're both fantastic too. And again, $8 million for Matt Duchene, I think is a great contract for Nashville. Again, they were trading PK Subban for somebody, and it might as well be Matt Duchene, a guy that can completely change that whole center core for the better. Not to mention that Nashville also had a pretty great depth signing in Daniel Carr, a guy that at the very least will be an AHL beast for you, and with Vegas, he really didn't get the greatest opportunity in the NHL, and he was barely given an opportunity, and I feel like if Nashville gives him maybe a third line spot, he'll be a pretty great player, maybe 30 to 40 points, I think. Again, he's an AHL beast, and depth signings are important for Nashville. That is fantastic depth to have. While Vegas didn't use him, I really do hope that Nashville uses him at the very least. Now, on to the team that I think won the 2019 NHL free agency, I have the Dallas Stars. And as a Dallas Stars fan, I was very hesitant to put them as the winner of NHL free agency, but I'm going to be honest, I'm going to admit it, they had a pretty good one, and they impressed me quite a bit. Now, back 2 years ago when the Dallas Stars ended up getting Alexander Radulov initially, everyone and their mothers ended up saying that the Dallas Stars were the off-season champions and that they would be a for sure playoff team next season. We all know what happened then. Ken Hitchcock was the coach, and we ended up falling out of playoff contention in the last month and missing the playoffs. So last year, of course, we weren't off-season champions or anything, but we ended up making the playoffs, making the second round, which is pretty friggin' sweet. Now this year, I've seen a lot of different people say the Dallas Stars are one of, if not the off-season champions so far, and I am really hesitant to put that tag on them, but when it comes to free agency, I will. I've been super impressed by what they've done so far this season, and hopefully I'm impressed doesn't mean they end up missing the playoffs. But I can't really help but feel excited for what the Dallas Stars have done so far. Obviously the big one being Joe Pavelski coming to the Dallas Stars for 3 years, $7 million contract on the dot, which is absolutely fantastic. It is definitely a risk to sign that kind of player to that kind of term at age 35. I can see that totally, but Joe Pavelski is kind of the answer that we need, especially on that second line where he can be a center or a winger whenever he chooses to be, but I think he can definitely fix those goal scoring problems especially. You also got Corey Perry for 1 year, a low-risk contract. Again, he has had a lot of health issues in the last couple of years. Even if he does get affected by health, even if he doesn't play too many NHL games, it's only 1 year, so the risk on that is pretty much non-existent. You also got the Andre Sekera contract, which I'm a pretty big fan of too. Kind of like Corey Perry, he hasn't been that healthy in the last couple of years, but he is getting a 1 year contract of $2 million, which again, is low risk. He could play a top 4 role if he is healthy, if he is ready to go, which I think he definitely can be. When it comes to Dallas, again, those low risk contracts, while those guys are older, all of these guys are above the age of 34, 33. So I think it is definitely a risk to sign these guys, but it's depth that the Dallas Stars do need, especially in the forward end. Having Joe Pavelski and Corey Perry are pretty solid adds. Having that second line forward that can have 2 separate lines, I think is huge for the Dallas Stars. Now with Joe Pavelski, a guy that had a better season than Matt Zuccarello by far last season, a guy that if he continues that type of play, can carry a line, and that second line I think is a great spot for him to be in. He also can have a little leadership. He was obviously the captain for the San Jose Sharks, so he has the experience, and again, he's been on multiple playoff runs, obviously not winning a cup so far, but the Dallas Stars can give him a cup. I'd be a pretty happy man. When it comes to this year's NHL free agency, there is still a lot of guys that haven't signed. Guys like Jake Gardiner, Marcus Johansson that are still available a couple days into free agency. But for the most part, I think these are the winners so far in NHL free agency. We will see a lot more signings in the next couple of weeks. But right now, as is, a couple of days after free agency starts, I think the Dallas Stars are the winners of this offseason. But of course, with this video, I need to hear your guys' thoughts down in the comments down below. So let me know, what do you think about my winners of the 2019 NHL free agency? And of course, the question on you, who do you think wins free agency the most? But if you guys want some more Grav videos just like this one, you can click on this card right here to watch my video on the Florida Panthers and all the signings they made in free agency so far. But that'll be it for today, guys. If you guys enjoy, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell if you haven't already. Again, comment down below your thoughts on free agency so far and who you think has won free agency. And I'll see you guys next video or stream. Goodbye.